Hello and welcome to today's webinar, Supercharge Your Business Central with an Integrated Finite Capacity Scheduler, VAPS. My name is Martin Karlovic. I'm CEO and co-owner of NETRONIC Software here from Aachen in Germany, and I'm your host for today's webinar. So this is the first webinar after we did a little summer break with respect to our webinars, not with respect of building visual scheduling software, and I'm really glad that although I enjoyed being on a bit of summer vacation, that the summer break is over and we start sharing content and making content and building products for you guys again, and most likely even more intense than before the summer break. So this first webinar has kind of the same housekeeping information than all the others that I did before the summer break. So just for your information, we are recording this webinar so that we make this available afterwards on our website and on our YouTube channel. We make the view available free, so there is no form that you need to fill out, but it's just there and you can watch it. During the meeting, you're on mute. This is not because we don't want to discuss with you, and this is not because I am not interested in hearing what you have to say, but this is just courtesy to all the other participants in the meeting, and we from time to time have really now big crowds in our webinars, and we just don't want to have unwanted background noises that also have increased with more and more people working from home offices rather than from offices. And so we have to mute all you guys. If you have any question, then please use the GoToWebinar chat pane. And then you can type in a question there. I will get a pop-up notification. And then when I'm on PowerPoint presentations, I will answer your questions right away. But if I'm in my demo environment and presenting our software, then from time to time I don't see these pop-up messages, and then I will just continue with my demo. And then when I switch back to PowerPoint, then I will see your question and answer it then. So if you have a question, please ask it. And second, you will definitively get an answer, but it may take a bit. At the end of the meeting, I will also share my contact details. So if you don't want to ask a question here, then you can share it afterwards via email or whatever social media channel you find me on. So I'm really, really happy to engage. And the fact that you're on mute is just for organizational reasons. And with this, let's get started. Kind of our marketing guys came up with a bright title for the first webinar, Supercharge Your Business Central with an Integrated Finite Capacity Scheduler, VAPS. And when I read this, I had a couple of questions actually. And I thought, if I have these questions and I know this product and I know what we do, then you might have these questions as well. And so let's get going. The first question, of course, is what is the VAPS? What does VAPS stand for? And for those of you who are not familiar with what we do and what the VAPS is, the VAPS stands for Visual Advanced Production Scheduler. And this is the first finite capacity visual scheduler that is fully integrated into Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central. So this is a product purposely built for Business Central. It is a product purposely built for production scheduling. It integrates as an extension in Business Central. It is nothing that you attach from the outside, but it really lives and breathes within Business Central as an extension and as an app, and it provides really finite capacity visual scheduling. So it combines the, let's say, ease and transparency of a visual scheduler with the power, the back-end power of finite capacity scheduling, and I will come to this in a minute. So for those of you who are familiar with us and also know what we have been doing for Microsoft Dynamics NAV, you might know a product called VPS, Visual Production Scheduler. The Visual Production Scheduler still exists for Business Central, and we keep on maintaining and we keep on developing and we keep on enhancing the VPS, but we decided to build an additional product for more demanding customers, for the more demanding use cases, and this is the VAPS. So the VAPS is the bigger brother of the Visual Production Scheduler, and as such, other than the VPS, who just add visual drag and drop to Business Central, the VAPS adds functionalities to the proven manufacturing capabilities of Business Central. And other than the VAPS, it is really purposely built for Business Central. It only works for Business Central. It works with all Business Central versions. So 14, 15, 16, and 14, we need cumulative update 1. And it's available both for on-prem deployments or as well as for any kind of SaaS deployment. And of course, it is available on Microsoft App Source. So whom is the VAPS for? Now that we know what this is, whom is this for? Well, we built the product with having like a VP operations or the operations director or the production planner of a discrete manufacturer in mind that works with Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central or considers to use this system. So from the persona we target, from the people we target, from the people we think that this is the right product, it is VP operations, it's operations director, it's a production planner. And from the type of manufacturing company, it's really for discrete manufacturer. It is not that geared toward continuous flow production for continuous production. It is really for discrete manufacturing. And there we see customers that are more make to order. We see customers that are more that are also building components to stock. So it is not that we have a clear differentiation there, but it should be really discrete manufacturing. And typically, if you're a discrete manufacturer and if you're using Business Central, or if you're looking at using Business Central, you have a certain size as a company. You might have a great reputation for your quality. You see 20 to 50 orders coming in every day, but you really have not solved your issues on getting transparency about what's happening on the shop floor. And I see that this question, let me just quickly answer, let me quickly conclude this thought, and then I will look at your question. And because you don't have established real transparency, you struggle with delivering time forecasting and you are drowning in operational workload. So in some way, you or your clients, you're in permanent firefighting mode. You have rush orders, changing customer requirements, you have machine breakdowns, you have delayed supplier deliveries, and so on. And it would be okay if it would be just like this, but then you have your sales colleagues with whom you have to argue day in and day out for delivery time commitments and moving this production order ahead or shifting this one out instead of actually managing the production. So, and because this isn't real an issue for you, this lack of transparency, you have tried scheduling. You've tried scheduling on a whiteboard, but it didn't work. You've tried it with Excel, it didn't work. Or it worked in the beginning and then you grew and it failed. You run morning meetings, but they take too long. And maybe you have even implemented an advanced planning and scheduling system, but it turned out to be too complex or not to work good with your ERP system. And actually, this is really common because an ERP system is not made for scheduling. They are made for managing transaction, but scheduling requires managing actions. And managing actions and managing transactions are completely different stories. And so the truth is also that most advanced planning and scheduling systems that come with very powerful algorithmic automatic scheduling are way too complex for you guys that work with Business Central or look at working with Business Central. And with the Visual Advanced Production Scheduler, we really meant to kind of address and solve this issue. So we want to bring transparency and control to discrete manufacturers working with Business Central. and help you run your shops smoother and faster and better. And then there's the question, are there any issues with this scheduler and the other manufacturing add-ons extension? Any limitation in compatibility? Not sure what you're referring to. Actually, as I said, we have two products, the Visual Production Scheduler, the Visual Advanced Production Scheduler. They are compatible with each other because we built them so you can start small with the VPS and then grow into the VAPS, both built on the same Business Central base, so both built on production orders and work centers, machine centers, and capacities. And then the Visual Production Scheduler VPS just provides drag and drop functionality to this, whereas the VAPS comes with much more functionalities. And so there are then some other manufacturing extensions that do not come from our company, but come from other vendors. But and for example, there are some for, let's say, shop floor data capture, manufacturing execution, stuff like this. So as long as these systems write into the standard business-centric tables, they are compatible with our product, and we are compatible with these products. So I hope that this answers your question. So the next question that I had after what is the VAPS and whom is the VAPS for, I also had the question like, okay, if we are claiming that this product supercharges Business Central, in which regard does it supercharge Business Central? And supercharging Business Central when it comes to manufacturing is actually, I find it's a bold claim that our marketing guys came up with. And because Business Central manufacturing alone is quite powerful actually, and Business Central manufacturing, the standard Business Central manufacturing module, Business Central manufacturing out of the box, provides really, really powerful capabilities that I have seen lot of customers really getting very well along just with what you get out of the box from Business Central. And my company does not sell Business Central. So we are not a Business Central reseller. We are an ISV, an independent software vendor. So we do not earn from selling Business Central, but we earn from selling extensions to Business Central, so extra apps. And although we earn just from selling after Business Central is sold, so we earn from selling extensions, we still, with really big confidence, can state that the Business Central manufacturing module itself is really powerful and is much more powerful than a lot of manufacturing capabilities of other ERP systems that kind of are priced in the same ballpark range than Business Central is. So you have items and item-specific examples like the minimum order quantity, safety, stock level, safety, lead time, stuff like so. The way of how you can define and handle items, really powerful. Then you can define BOMs and multi-level BOMs with a deep sub-assembly hierarchy and manage this whole process of assembly and sub-assembly of components delivering to the end product. This is all within standard Business Central. You can create production orders for these items, taking into account multi-level production BOMs with different statuses, with the capability to make reservations on production orders from sales orders and from other order types. You have family orders. So all of this is really powerful with the different production order statuses, supporting a workflow associated with the production order. We have work centers and machine centers. We can handle subcontracting work within our work center structure. We can handle different shop calendars within this infrastructure. There is actually a powerful material requirements planning and master production schedule that creates a plan to meet your demand. So there's quite a bit of substance there. You can create the production orders manually from sales orders, from MRP, MPS. So I will do part of this in the demo later today. And you have the production journal that really brings together the schedule data and the execution data. So it kind of it helps you control what is going on shop floor. So this is standard Business Central. This is what you get out of the box, and then we supercharge this powerful base, this powerful fundament, by adding additional powers to it. And the additional powers that we add with the VAPS, they really kind of link to this strong fundament. And of course, we kind of take all this data that you have here and provide it to you in Gantt Charts, so that you can do drag and drop scheduling, that you get transparency what's happening on the shop floor, and yet you can manage it. But we also give you finite capacity scheduling capability, something that MRP cannot do. MRP just creates the plan to meet your demand, but it does not look at your most likely limited capacities, but it just does the time scheduling. It does not do a good resource scheduling. It does not do a good work center / machine center scheduling. This is what comes with the VAPS. When we do so, we take into account material availability for scheduling, something you don't get out of the box. We allow you actually to do this finite capacity scheduling with taking into account alternative machine centers, including, let's say, efficiency factors. So if you have these two brand new machines that run at high speed, and then this older machine with which you can use to deal with some extra demand, but which runs a lot slower, so you can produce less pieces in the same point of time. This is something you actually can tell the VAPS, that you can say, okay, by default, we have this fast machine where the material should go to, but if we have some free capacity on the slower machine, even if it takes longer to complete, if overall we are faster because we have free capacity on the older machine, then please, VAPS, put it there. With the VAPS, we just don't have this one database where you have your production schedule, and in the minute you change the time, everything else, including the work order list, get updated. But instead, we have implemented a kind of a middle tier, which we call the simulation layer, where you can create different simulations of your production schedule. You can compare them, and then you can publish the schedule that best meets your business goals, and only then work order lists are updated. And we have a lot of automatic and semi-automatic priority by scheduling tools that help you to maintain the overall schedule. And so with this, actually, the VAPS helps you to better master some day-to-day challenges that Business Central does not particularly help you well with. And this is, for example, the question like, okay, hey, I have a bunch of new sales orders. So we created sales orders, and then what are realistic delivery times? It's hard to get this information because with Business Central, you cannot do proper capacity scheduling. So of course you get the Business Central time planning, but it does not tell you if this is realistic or not. And this is something kind of to get an understanding of realistic delivery times and make realistic delivery time commitments or forecasts. This is something the Visual Advanced Production Scheduler can really help you, and you get an answer almost directly at your fingertips, and I will come to this in my demo in a minute. The next typical challenge that we see many of you guys face, and where the standard ERP system often does not have an bam out of the box answer, is like, okay, now my machine broke. I had a tight schedule, and now I need to reschedule everything and make sure that important jobs are still done in time. How can I achieve this? How can I model the machine breakdown in my ERP system? How can I see the impact that this has on my schedule? Which jobs run late? What should I do? Where should I put the job that was waiting on this machine? And all these kind of tough questions. And then the next day-to-day challenge where Microsoft Dynamics Business Central and many other ERP systems really are not good help is like, okay, now I have the schedule, and now the rush order comes, the boss orders comes, and I need to squeeze it in and everybody is yelling at me, I need to do something, and oh my God, what is the overall impact on the schedule? Where should I put it? When should I put it? And what kind of time, again, can we tell this boss customer when this will be ready? So these are kind of some of the typical challenges, and I prepared demo cases to kind of run through these cases and show you how you can actually address them with the Visual Advanced Production Scheduler. And with this, let's look at the first use case, and let's assume we have a bunch of new orders, new sales orders, and we need to give realistic delivery times. So with this, let's have a look actually at the VAPS and switching the environment. Annoyingly have to refresh and to log in again. And here we go. So I created a database for this webinar so that we can run through these cases. So now, before I add actually one sales order for a couple of items, which creates a couple of new production orders to my system, let's quickly look what we have. And in order to do so, we can actually look at the VAPS. Working with the VAPS always requires you to create a new simulation. I did one before the webinar, but I don't know if somebody added new production orders to it. So let me quickly delete this and create a new simulation, which I call the use case 1 simulation, or the one that we will use for the use case 1. What I'm doing here is I'm just defining which production orders I want to have in my schedule. So which production orders do I want to schedule, or for which production orders I want to see the schedule. And so I'm looking 5 days back from the work date and 10 weeks into the future. And I want to look at the schedule by having it shown, having my production orders or my operations being colored by the production order status. So when I say, okay, we actually take all the production orders that meet these criteria and copy them in a separate table so that we now have the production scheduled simulation done. And so that when I make changes to it, we will not directly change the Business Central data, but we will change the simulation first. And then when I'm happy, I will publish it, and then it's written back. So let's look what kind of schedule I have. And this is something I did in advance of the webinar, but we said the use case is I have already a solid schedule, and then some new orders come in, and I need to tell the customer what is a realistic time frame. So we see actually my machining. I have a couple of departments here. I have a machining department, I have an assembly and quality control, and I have a painting department, which for the demos in this case are not used. And if this is red, actually, then there is subcontractors, and these are subcontractor work centers, which I also will not use in this demo because I'm focusing on these 3 use cases and not trying to show you everything. So we see that actually my assembly and quality control work center, so this is my department, these are my work centers, these are my machine centers, I have a lot of idle times here. They are not used very well, but my machining department is really quite busy. So this red line over here, this is my work date. So in my demo environment, this is the 28th of January 21. So I see that for this week, I have quite a tight schedule, but I also locked my machines virtually for most of next week and also the week after. You see there are some gaps. I'm not using my turning machine for whatever reason, but I'm using milling 1 and milling 2 and also my milling turning machine. So I have actually a pretty solid backlog of work that I schedule to my machine centers, and we see that most of this is released, which are the orange ones, and then the dark blue are the firm plans. So I added them also to my schedule, resulting in some gaps, but this gap is because kind of we have to wait for this to finish on my drilling machine, which seems to be a bit of bottleneck because I don't have any gap in here. And so now, as said, now the issue is new sales orders are created. So let me just open a second tab. This should work. So now my sales guys, they say, oh, my customer, and let me do orders, not quote, just to make like my sales guy say, hey, now that we are back from the summer break, we can sell again, and my sales guys, they selling a couple of items actually. Not sure why this is so long, to my favorite customer, the Canon Group, and the Canon Group wants this by, let's say, the salespeople put in as a requested delivery date, the 8th of March, which is actually the birth of a person that I know very well. But anyway, and they are selling item 3000. This is just one of the sample items I built. They are requesting a quantity of whatever, 40 units of this, and we are selling also item 3700, and we see already not enough inventory there, but we keep on selling 25, and maybe item 3008, 40 again. And so now, like good salespeople selling a lot of stuff, and typing and talking is always tough. So they are selling 20 also of this. And so now they are selling it, and because we don't have inventory, say, okay, production should build it. So what we do is that from the sales order, we create production orders. And the way of how we do it right now is that we say, okay, let's create the production order. We do it as, in order to differentiate it, let's do it as a planned production order. We do it as an item order, so that for every item we get a new production order, so that we add 4 new production orders to the schedule. And now I need to deal with them. So now, we have created these 4 production orders, and let's remember the requested delivery date was the 8th of March. And when I look from Business Central, because the question is like, what is a realistic delivery time frame? I now look at my planned production orders. Here are the 4 that we just added for these 3 items. And when I look at those, I really see, okay, well, due date, we start on the 2nd of March, seems to finish on the 5th. Well, this looks good. I can also look at the routing. So there was some routing applied to it on milling, cutting, assembly 1, inspection table. I have some timing, and from here I can drill down in the capacity need. So I win the impression that this really could do the job. And but the thing is, like, the Business Central planning and all these dates that you saw were just time planning, and this was done backward from my required due date, but we didn't take into account the capacity information. So now let's look what these 4 production orders that we just added here on this second tab. So I'm kind of the salesperson, and I bombed now 4 production orders at my production scheduler, and now I'm switching back to the production scheduler, and what I see is I get the information, hey, your simulation is outdated. So the simulation is outdated because when I created this simulation, we didn't know about these 4 planned production orders that I just created from the sales order, because when I opened and when I created the simulation, this 4 production orders coming from this one sales order for my customer Canon group, they did not exist. So now, as Mr. Salesperson added the sales order, and from the sales order created these 4 production orders. 4 production orders have been added to the Business Central database, but these 4 production orders are not yet part of this simulation, and hence I get the message the simulation is outdated. So what I can do is actually, when I get this, I can say edit, update simulation, and then I can fetch the data that was created new in my Business Central database and can fetch this into this simulation. And now we see that these production orders, which are now in light blue because I made them as planned so that we can visually differentiate, that they are now on this standby resource. So having them on the standby resource means they have been added to Business Central, for example, from the sales department, but I'm, as the production scheduler, haven't touched them at all, and my job is now to give a realistic delivery time commitment based on my current production schedule. So now what I can do, and these are 4 production orders, I can now drag and drop them one after the other to the schedule, or I can actually say, well, I want to add them all to the schedule without impacting my current schedule. And I can actually also say from when to start this. So I can say, hey, actually, if there is a free gap, so I don't want to impact next week. Next week is locked down, and I agreed already with the people on the shop floor that we will work on these production orders, these operations. So, well, maybe we can use this gap here actually. So let's say I want to add these newly created planned production orders to my schedule, and I want to start this from here. So this is what we call the scheduling start. So maybe I want to start this from, let's say I want to start this from next week Friday. So maybe I can fill this gap with some of the stuff that we just created. And then what I can do with a finite capacity scheduler like the VAPS, I can say schedule add all. And when I say add all, we will add all production orders that have been created from Business Central that now sit on the standby resource. We can add them all to the schedule. Let me do this first. I will say add all, and then we add them all to the schedule, and we take into account the standard routing that we have. So now every operation goes on the routing, on the machine center that was defined in the routing. And here in my sample data, it looks quite good because it always goes to, like, it finds the first available spot within the standard routing. I could have also said, and sometimes I think in my case here, it makes no big difference to the overall schedule. I could also say schedule at all, including alternative machine centers. Then with the VAPS, and I won't show you how you do this, but I just say that you can do is within the VAPS, you can actually define allowed alternatives for every routing step. So I can say this routing step here can go either to cutting 1 or to cutting 2 or to cutting 3. And then I can say, okay, now add this to the schedule. And within all allowed alternatives, starting from the scheduling start, look for those that can get the job done at earliest. Now we're doing a little bit calculation, and now you see we added it to the schedule and it looks a little bit more efficient. So I can now actually tell my sales guy, hey, look, good news. If I just add it to the schedule and use in the best possible way my available resources and my free capacity, then the last one of these 4 items will be done by the 3rd of March. So, hey, Mr. Salesman, you did a good job with the 8th of March. Your required delivery date, it will be met. So I can really precisely say, hey, if I add them to my schedule and if I use all allowed alternatives, I can meet this date. So now let's again recap, undo it, and say, if we wouldn't have these allowed alternatives, if we just have the standard routing and do it again, let's add them by just applying the standard routing, then you see actually the last one finishes here at the 8th of March. Well, we say, okay, look, it is still realistic, but look here, we are missing the deadline. We are missing the deadline. We are finishing on the 9th of March. So let's sum this up with the Visual Advanced Production Scheduler. You can add multiple production orders that you, for example, created from a sales order and added to Business Central. You can add them to your schedule without changing the overall schedule, but you can look for like an optimal place to start them based on your current workload and use all allowed or use one of the allowed alternatives. And then once you are scheduled, you can look at them and then you really can confirm them. And now what I would do is immediately from here, like if this is fine, then I would now switch this, for example, to from here, change the status. And this is a feature that is going to come with the September release. I could say from here, like I want to change the status of the production order and change it from here, like I want to make it firm planned because now it's really good. I need to lock it. And then it's on the schedule. So now talking about the next release, these 4 production orders also came from one sales order. So in order to kind of still get that they are from one sales order, and this is something, a sneak preview that is going to come by the end of this month. On right mouse click, I can say show in sales view. So we are building a sales view, and then I have my sales orders here, and this sales order 1014 is the one for Canon Group that includes these 4 items that I just added to it. And then we see from here, like all my items that I'm going to produce. I'm going to produce 40 of item 3000, 25 of item 3700, and so on. And I see where they are in my schedule. And now my sales guy can go to this view, look up the sales order and tell the customer, okay, I see that the last item that we finish from your order will be on the 3rd of March. So this is something, the sales order view, something that we will come up with in the next version. So this was a little bit of a sneak preview of what is going to come. And you see I'm playing around with this from here. Let's go back to the other view like this. So this was the use case 1. Let me get out of it again from here and go back quickly to this. So in terms of VAPS features that I use to kind of facilitate this use case, I created a simulation. We worked with the required due date, and we can work with production order specific color if we like. I didn't do this because I just did the trick with the production order status, because the ones that I added were planned and all the others were either firm planned or released. We definitively made use of alternative machine centers. I added all new production orders with the add all and the add all with alternative function. And we also looked that in order to support a use case like this, we are investing some more time and effort for you guys so that we will come up with a sales order view so that we can look at all items and when they are planned from per sales order. Is here a question coming? A long question. Can you explain any optimization or algorithm capabilities VIA has to understand change over times and fit production orders into the most efficient sequence to minimize downtime due to changeover as opposed to just putting into an open time slot? Not sure if fill idle time has some of this logic built in. Very great question. This is something so far we look at production orders and schedule production orders in their entirety, and also with the fail idle times we look at production orders overall and have a priority based scheduling. What we don't have right now is an optimization that takes into account setup times and changeover times depending on certain, let's say, item attributes. For example, in painting, if it goes from dark to light or from light to dark, it will have an impact on the setup time or in the cleaning time in between. But we are aware of this requirement, and this is something where we are finalizing the specification for just right now, and that we are going to implement with the really highest priority after we ship the September release. So this is something that is on top of our list of things to do. We call it sequence dependent setup times, and this will be done by item attribute and then define changeover matrix for if you go from one item with one attribute to the item with the other attribute. So this is something that we have on our list, and this is going to come rather sooner than later, but not in the September release. Next question, is there any capabilities to note scheduled maintenance downtime on work centers? Thank you very much for this question, because this leads me to, and I hope I answered the other one with the changeover time. If not, then let me know and send me an email afterwards, and we can discuss in all detail. And now I'm getting a message that my audio connection is bad. Can you quickly confirm that you can hear me? Can you confirm that you can hear me now? Okay, sound is back. Thanks for the feedback. So now the second question was on downtime, and this brings me to the second use case. Like, my machine broke, I need to reschedule everything and make sure important jobs are still done in time. And this could be a machine break, or this could be a machine downtime. And let's have a look how I would do it with the Visual Advanced Production Scheduler. And let me create a new simulation. Also to show you something else, like say use case 2. And the rest is the same. So now I still have my old simulations where the one that we did a couple of minutes ago, where I added my, and let's have a look, where I added my planned production orders on those machines. And now for whatever reason, here they are. So they are now added on machine for whatever reason, but I didn't publish it back. And now for whatever reason, I want to test out something else. So now I created a new simulation, and with the simulation we fetch data from Business Central, and as we didn't publish the other schedule to Business Central, then those ones are still, and also the one that I switched to Firmland, those are now on standby because I didn't publish the schedule. But this is just for information so that you get a bit of understanding how the simulation works. So now the case is that for the 5th of February, let me see if this is, yeah, for the 5th of February here. So I'm here, or for next week Friday, so I'm here. I am here on the 28th, and now for next week Friday, I get the information that although I have this beautiful schedule, I need to take my cutting machine 1 out for maintenance interval. Or I get the information if it is today, I got the information that it breaks, or if this is a schedule and I get the information, okay, next week Friday actually after 9 a.m. so we can finish what is running here for that long time. But after this long job, we actually have to put the machine on a maintenance interval, on a maintenance break, and this should go from let's say from 9 in the morning to 3 in the afternoon. So now what I can do is from here I can say define, right mouse click, context menu, define additional downtime. I'm on cutting machine 1, and like planned maintenance would be the reason to take this down. I would start at 9 a.m. and it would go to, let's say, 3 p.m. And if I do this, what is happening now is you see in the background, we get this red block. This red block means this is downtime. So one word on the visualization here in the background, we see white. This is work time, gray. This is non-work time as defined in the shop calendar. So now here in the background on cutting 1 on the 5th of February between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. we see this is red. So this is now my planned maintenance. What we also see is that the operation that was scheduled to happen here now moved on the standby resource, because now I, as the planner, need to take care of this. So what we don't do is we don't make any kind of automatic movement right now, but we move it back to standby so that I, as a planner, see, hey, I need to take action. Something happened, something changed my schedule, and now it's on me to make a decision. And what I want to do is I could squeeze it in here. I see there is some time gap here, or potentially I could also move it to here. I'm not sure what to do actually. And so what I don't want to do is I in an ideal case, I get this squeezed in without causing delays on other orders. And so what I'm doing now first is, this is colored now by production order status, so orange released, dark blue firm plant, and so on. And now I say, okay, please switch this and show it to me in the progress view color mode. Show it to me in the progress view, and with progress view, and I get an interesting demo effect now, which I didn't have before when I tested this. Hurrah, hooray, hooray, hooray. Now it's as planned. So in the progress view, everything that is like finishing before the required due date, so everything that is finishing in time is in green, and everything that finishes late is shown in red. So now, of course, the first option would be that I said, okay, this was planned to be on my cutting 1 machine. There was a reason for it to go on cutting 1. So now that there is this interruption for maintenance, I squeeze this in, and then maybe a little bit of this will be squeezed out. So now I take this, I squeeze it in here again. And now you see, oh, boom, something turned red here. So because this one now moved out its predecessor here, this could not cause this change. But what now happened is, by squeezing in this one here, we pushed out this 10, 14, 13, and then the predecessor on drilling 1 got pushed out, and this now turns late. So squeezing it in here is not a good option actually. Or I can check if there are better options to have this done on another machine. So I could say, okay, what I could potentially do is, let me undo it. There we get this one, this guy in time again. But I can say, okay, having it on cutting 1 is not the best idea. I see there is a bit of free time here on cutting 2. So maybe I need to move it to here. If I do it, well, I see I'm making use of this time. I'm pushing out a few other jobs. This one that I have finishes in time, and all the others finish in time as well. And so this is why we don't do any automation here, and finishing it in time is just one characteristic that can be good for you. In the future, when we have the setup dependent time, it might be not good to have now maybe this was a yellow one and this was a yellow one and this is a black one in painting, so then this would be not good, or this is one profile, this is the same profile, and this is a different profile in cutting, and it would now require some setup time. So this is when you have this planned maintenance interval, we move it to standby, and then we give you a lot of visualization tool to see the impact of bringing it back into the schedule. And here in my case, where I was just kind of concerned to get it done in time and not negatively impact the others, I would actually move it from cutting 1 to cutting 2, and I also would kind of be okay with starting it later because I'm finishing still in time. So this is, let me see, this is the second use case, and I see that there are questions again. Can we optimize Business Central standard scheduling to make sure that production process is running on short period example, current load on week? I would say this is now getting very specific, and I will answer this question afterwards via email, okay? Because I think also I may need to ask you a couple of questions to make sure that I got this right, and I'm a little bit conscious of time, so maybe let me conclude with case 3, and then if time at the end of the meeting, I will look at this question again and take then time to answer it then, or we can set up a call to discuss this in more details. And I hope that this is okay for you. So let's recap use case 2. The features and tools that I used to do it was, I created a new simulation. We worked with the required due date, which is an extension that comes with the VAPS. We add machine downtime from the visual planner. I switched to the progress view to rapidly see late orders. I dragged and dropped stuff, and with this triggered the finite capacity scheduling. And what might also apply, which I didn't use, but which could really help in this case, are tools that we call fill idle times and schedule successors. And I may actually try to kind of make use of them in the last case that I have. And the last case that I have is that, oh God, now I got my boss order, I need to squeeze it in. And what's the overall impact on the schedule? And with this, let's again go back to my demo environment. Let's close the simulation and let's add the boss job. And maybe we take a firm planned production order. And let's say I need to squeeze in a production order for item, whatever. Let's take that one. Let's say we need to do 80. We need to have them on the 28th. And then we say, okay, because this is a boss order, it should be shown in red. So when I look at this order in the VAPS, I want to see it in red because this is so urgent boss job. Now I quickly add this to Business Central. And well, because I added this and you know the principle, my simulation is outdated. So I create a new one now in this case, and this would be for use case 3. And you see now is that I open production order status. Maybe I want to change this actually. And I want to say here, when I open this simulation, I don't want to see it by production order status, but I want to see it by production order because I actually said that I want to see this boss order in red. And now the same schedule pops up, almost the same, but I see that my boss job here is showing up like this in red. And now I need to kind of squeeze it into the schedule. And what I'm going to do is that I would say, okay, maybe I don't want to disturb my plan for the week before, but I see some flexibility here on cutting to. So I say I want to start on this here. Then I can say from here, like for this production order, apply the alternative routing, so it finds the most earliest available slot on the other machines, and then I can say, okay, but actually there is a time gap now between the end of this and the beginning of this. Or let me make this a little bit more precise. So maybe we start actually here on this a bit earlier. So we start here, and now I say, okay, from here on, I want to accelerate this, and then I can say, okay, scheduled successors, and scheduled successors brings forward all the other elements that are following, that are part of this production order, but it goes on the cost of all the others. So you see this guy here got a red dot, which means if we go back to my progress view, then you see that this one now turned late. And now this one as well, because I kind of pushed in and squeezed in this boss job. Let me go back to this view where we just look at this by production order, that we can focus this boss job. And if I'm doing drag and drop changes, what can happen, and we see this a little bit here now, it can be the fact that kind of idle times come up, and if you want to fill them, we can say schedule filled idle times and also look within alternatives, and then we try to find ways of squeezing together production orders and operations on machines so that you don't have times in between the production orders, in between the operations on the respective machines. And so this is a quick look, and I had to accelerate this a bit due to time, and I see that there are more questions, so I will answer them in a minute. Here is again the list of features that I used to do this use case, and you can look at them from the recording, and we will also provide the slides after the meeting. And with this, I just want to conclude that with the visual production scheduler, I'm not sure if you're supercharging Business Central, but we give you some really hidden and new powers to your ERP system. We give you the capability to schedule with finite capacities. We give you capability to apply some automatic scheduling tool. We give you capabilities to handle multiple simulations of your production schedule. We give you capabilities to do a couple of things really visually and easy that are hard to handle with an ERP system like Business Central. We give you capabilities to schedule with material availability information, which I didn't address at all in this webinar, which will be definitely part of one of the next webinars. So if you look for some additional scheduling capabilities within Business Central, then I recommend you have a look at the VAPS, or you suggest the VAPS as a potential enhancement to your customers. There's a list of additional information. So we have a product page on the VAPS. We ask partners, or we have a certification program where partners can learn the Visual Advanced Production Scheduler so that you can sell it and implement it to your customers. And we recently, and this is highly recommended for download, we recently finished an ebook, quite long, almost 50 pages, on the Visual Advanced Production Scheduler, which in detail looks at a lot of angles of the VAPS. So go to info.netronic.com, VAPS ebook for MD365 BC. And then also we share the slides and we share the information in the follow-up email to this webinar, so that you can have these links. And with this, I'm at the end of the presentation. I really like to thank you for your attendance. I thank you that you contributed to this, that you're interested in this. If you have questions, then send me an email or connect with me on LinkedIn. And again, thank you very much. And I will look at the questions now, but just for those who have seen and heard enough and have no time to stay with us for the Q&A session, thank you again, and please stay safe and healthy. And let's get in contact, because I'm really too happy to work with you on production scheduling opportunities for Business Central users and customers. And now let's go back to the question that remained unanswered. So first, again, to the one that I briefly touched a minute ago, can we optimize Business Central standard scheduling to make sure that production process is running on one shot period? Example, current load on week 4, and then on the end of August 20, we need to finish next product order. By standard, Business Central will put load on week 5, and then rest are before week 4. My expectation is all load are finished before week 4. Maybe you understand the question. I think you can do it with standard Business Central, but standard Business Central does not schedule with finite capacity, so it will leave you under the impression that you could finish it, but in practice it would assume that you can run multiple production orders at the same time on a machine. So Business Central, standard Business Central, calculates with infinite capacity. So with our product, it would not work like you just described, that you want to say, I need to finish these products before that date, because sometimes this is just impossible, but it would show you when you will finish them. And for those that you then need to accelerate, we give you tools like drag and drop, like scheduled successors, to then accelerate them. Or what we also didn't do in this webinar is, like we added downtime to a machine, we have the capability to also add extra time on machines, and then you can use this extra time to accelerate stuff. So I hope I got the question right. If not, and I see you are asking a follow-up question, just for my info, that Business Central supports finite capacity. Yes, it supports finite capacity. You are right. I apologize for the misleading information, but it does not support finite capacity in a way that works for most of the customers. So business-centric standard manufacturing has a functionality that is called capacity-constrained resources. And if you really look into this, then it does not, let's say it the other way around. When we looked at our product, we always work on the assumption that you finish an operation on a machine and then start with the next one. If you use the finite capacity scheduling that is part of Business Central, then this is not guaranteed, but sometimes operations are just interrupted, and you only will see this if you look into the capacity need table. And if you have further questions on this, and if you want to have further comments, then I'm really happy to discuss this with you in a separate meeting, and maybe I will reach out to you afterwards to kind of set this up. Next question. So VAPS only does forward finite. What about backward finite? You are right. As of now, it is just forward finite. We are considering backward finite, but we haven't yet set any release date for it, unless, or unlike with some of the other features that we spoke about. So it's on a list of ideas to look at, but it is not on one of the top positions right now. Next question was the standby setup as work centers and e.g. cutting 1 and cutting 2 set up as machine centers. Yes and no. So I had a work center called cutting, and then I have machine centers called cutting 1 and 2. And the standby resource is a resource that we automatically add to the visual schedule, so you don't need to care for it. We automatically add a standby resource that we treat as a resource with infinite capacity, and we add it automatically to each work center that contains at least one machine center. Next question is, what about split scheduling? In other words, doing part of the routing either or part of the work on machine 1 and then switching to machine 2, or doing part of the work in week 1 and then remainder in week 3. Really great question, and I'm glad that you asked it, and I'm a little bit sad that I only see it now. This is something that is, to my knowledge, also not very well supported from within Business Central. We are currently look at ways to facilitate scenarios like these, but this then would be always in association right now with the production journal, so that we say, okay, this work started on that machine, and now we need to pause it and then process the remainder of this later on another machine. So this is something that we have on our list of things to do, and this is definitively higher on our list of priorities than the backward scheduling. So these are kind of real life scenarios that we see quite frequently for our customers, and I cannot give you a shipment date for this, but we started to look at this, and we started also to specify some of these cases. But then my take would be that in a first go, it would always be in relation with the production journal, so that we have kind of a partial quantity finished and then need to decide what to do with the rest. And then, does VAPS, and this is the last question for now, does VAPS support parallel routing? Yes, and I'm glad that you asked, because I only had examples with sequential routing, but of course it also supports parallel routing, and it also supports production order lines that are linked to the reservation table. So I hope that all questions are answered. and I also don't see any more questions coming in. So with this, thank you very much for challenging me with these questions. Thank you very much for listening and joining me for this webinar. And again, stay safe and healthy, and see you in one of the next webinars. Thanks. Have a great day. Bye-bye.